What's the best advice that you can give to a student that's looking to start a business at school?
Do it. Just do it. If you've got an idea and you know your idea is feasible.
What were your favourite subjects and what did you like best about school?
What I liked best about school was being with my friends. Now, I'm not gonna lie.
What were you like in secondary school and were you an entrepreneurial as a student?
In secondary school, I was really unsure of what I wanted to do when I grew up.
Were you a secondary school student again now? What type of business would you look to start and why?
I would be an agent for actors and musical bands.
Hello and welcome to another Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast. My name is Richard Layton. I work as the entrepreneur in residence within the Brett Centre for Entrepreneurship that's part of the University of Liverpool Management School. We're here this morning in UTC, the studio in the Baltic Triangle with our Year 9s competition class. It's an extracurricular session where the pupils work on entrepreneurial challenges. Thanks as always to Mr. Kerry, the Sector Skills Champion within the school, not only for the support with the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast, but also the Enterprise Education in Secondary Schools programme. Thanks as well to Jay, who produces and directs the podcast for us. Our entrepreneur this morning is Fran Manka, the founder of Underwing Liverpool.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming in. And our two pupils who are going to be interviewing the entrepreneur are Ollie and Adam. And I'll now hand it over to you both to ask the questions.
What does Underwing Liverpool do and how long have you run the business?
So I've run the business for 8 years this February, or 9, might be. They all jumble up when it's more than 2, I think. So at the end of this February, it's going to be 9 years. I am a coach and I specialize in helping people with business strategy, but especially people who are neurodivergent. So my coaching divides into 2 groups, if you want. One is people who already run a business and want to grow it. And another one is people who maybe are still employed but have an idea and want to start a business, and I coach them through it, being mindful of how their mind works and how they can adapt their business to the way they can live happily.
Why did you decide to start Underwing Liverpool as opposed to another type of business?
So when I decided to start my own business, I did it because my son is autistic. And at that time, he was having a very, very hard time in school. And in the end, he was excluded. And we had to really, really support him and really help him to find a school where his brain could thrive, where he could thrive, which we did. But because of that, I needed a lot of time to put the infrastructure in place. At the time, I was a marketing director in a company, and I wasn't doing really well, the marketing director, and I wasn't doing the mum really well. So I decided to leave my job to support my child and start my own business. I started as a freelancer, and then it grew into the business that it is now.
What were you like in secondary school and were you an entrepreneurial as a student?
In secondary school, I was really unsure of what I wanted to do when I grew up. I loved everything to do. I did classical studies, so I did ancient Greek, Latin. I'm Italian, so lots of Italian literature, but also things like chemistry and maths, obviously. But I was more drawn to classical studies. I loved Greek literature, and I did loads of sports and I studied English, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But every time I saw the opportunity for a business, and this is even before being in secondary school, even when I was like 5 and I didn't want my old toys anymore, I'd do a market on the street and sell my toys to buy new toys.
What were your favourite subjects and what did you like best about school?
What I liked best about school was being with my friends. Now, I'm not going to lie and tell you that I was a perfect student. I wasn't. I did love certain subjects, which were Greek literature, absolutely adored it, philosophy. I adored anything that was practical. We did a lot of astronomy with my chemistry teacher, because she also taught us like astronomy and things like that. But I think everything I really, really liked was down to the fact that those teachers were absolutely amazing. They were teachers who also taught me lots of life skills and how to behave, how to interview, how to exist in the world, and also their subjects.
What could school have done to encourage or support you and others into entrepreneurship more?
When I went to school 600 years ago, it was really based on learning the knowledge from the books, but there was very little practical encouragement. And also another thing that wasn't done was that no one actually sat with me in secondary school and said, so this is what you're good at, and this is what you're absolutely rubbish at, and this is what is like in the middle. So based on this, you could pick that kind of career or that kind of university. Because in school, in Italy, school is a bit different. You finish high school when you're 19 and then you go to university. So it's like college and high school are crammed up in the same thing. And when you finish that, you go to university or get a job, depending where you are. And no one really sat with us to say, this is where you could put your skills. And I think that could have saved loads of us picking loads of wrong universities and wrong careers.
Did you go to sixth form and university after studying your GCSEs, and how did that help you develop your entrepreneurial skills?
So I did. Obviously, I already told you, it's like a big bunch, so there's no college. You come out with the diploma already, as if you had finished college. And I did go to university, and I did psychology. And I don't think it did anything for my entrepreneurial skills, except for the fact that in Italy we don't have students' loan. So the only way you can go to university is if you can pay for your tax and your rent and your bills. So I had to find ways. So my lessons were Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. in university. And I had to find a way to fit a job in so that I could pay everything I needed to pay. So I'd do lessons till 6, then go be a cook in a pub during the week, and then in the weekend I'd have found a job in a clothing store. So I think it didn't do in terms of entrepreneurship, but it did do in terms of teaching me to manage my time better, which is something you really need when you're an entrepreneur.
What did you do before starting Underwing Liverpool? Did you work for anyone else or run any other businesses, and what did you learn?
So I started my career as a freelancer because I did psychology at university, then came out and never did psychology ever again. And came out and started my career in events. And I was a freelancer, and I was working in events for quite a long time. And then one of my agencies asked me to stay in the office. Instead of running the event, I would plan them. And that's how my career started. I worked in event for quite a long time. Then in 2010, I moved to the UK. And when I moved to the UK, I did a kind of a shift, still working for agencies, but working in marketing and events. From there, I worked in agencies for a bit, and then someone headhunted me, which means they knew who I was, and they came and got me and offered me a job. And this company was an umbrella company with a sister company, which was an accountancy practice, and they didn't have a marketing department, and they wanted me to create the marketing and events department. From there, I was headhunted again as a marketing director for a software company. And that's my last employed job. From there, I became an entrepreneur.
What's the best advice that you can give to a student that's looking to start a business at school?
Do it. Just do it. If you've got an idea and you know your idea is feasible, you know you can do it either alone or with someone. So for example, let's say you have an idea and you know you can make something you make and you know you can make it, but maybe you can't sell it and you've got a friend who never shuts up. That's your salesperson. So you want to either find a way to do it by yourself or find someone who will do it with you, and you'll figure it out as you go, because no matter how much you study, no matter how ready you think you are, you're never ready. So just do it. You'll figure it out as you go, I promise you, because I started without knowing anything about entrepreneurship, and the vast majority of the people I speak to every day who are all entrepreneurs didn't have a clue when they started a business. And you just make it up as you go, isn't it?
What are the plans for Underwing Liverpool in the future, and do you believe you'll set up any more businesses?
I don't know. So my plans change very often. Underwing didn't start as the business it is now. It started as a marketing consultancy, and then other mums like me were coming to me to say, I'm a mum of a child who has got a neurodivergent or special educational needs. I've got an idea for a business, can you teach me? And this is how I transitioned in what I am. So the nature of Underwing is a business that was born to help others. And I go with that current. If in a year what people need from me is different, I will do something different. I will qualify and I will study to help the people I help already. I've already shifted in the last year, helping so many more families and schools than I used to do before. So I would do parent coaching with the parents, but also then work with schools to help them help their pupils better and things like that. So I don't make long-term plans because I evolve with how the community around me and the landscape is evolving. But maybe I could come back in a couple of years and tell you.
Were you a secondary school student again now? What type of business would you look to start and why?
I would set up, I would be an agent for actors and musical bands, because I am a trained actress and a trained singer, and in my life I've had so many bands, so many choirs, and I've worked with so many actors and actresses, and I find there is definitely a lack of, so actors, singers, musicians, they're really good at what they do, but they're rubbish at selling themselves. They're rubbish at going to people and saying, my band is amazing, buy us. They'll get any gig so that they can play. And I am really good at selling that kind of things to others. So if I was very young again, I would do that.
Awesome. I think Liverpool's a really good city for that as
yes,
well,
it is.
especially on the music side. I also really like your philosophy in terms of business, how that you've changed and adapt to the environment and had that flexibility. And I certainly think the world that we're going into at the moment with the advancement of technology, people are going to have to be adaptable, not only within entrepreneurship, but even within careers and employability skills and other things.
Like, for example, in my field now, already in the last 18 months, there is such an increase in platforms where the coach is AI. So you need a coach, but you don't have the money for a human coach. You can pay pennies, and there's jobs out. I get targeted on LinkedIn with jobs to train AI to coach people. I'm like, I'm not going to do that because I'm a coach. But jobs are evolving, and if you don't evolve with them, you're not going to be here in 3 years' time, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So thanks ever so much to Ollie and Adam for asking the questions. We'll now go to the audience, to the other pupils that we have here for questions.
You know how you said you're an actress? Are you an actress?
An actress. So I've trained to be an actress. I'm not really an actress, no. I haven't pursued that career, but I can act if someone asks me.
So like a singer or anything?
I am a singer, 100% a singer. I sing in a choir, I have a band.
What band is it? What's the band called?
So the band is called Funking because we play funk.
Where can I find it?
Oh, my band at the moment is in Italy. So I go there and play gigs because I had this band before I left Italy. And so we kept it. And what we do is at least once a month, they will find a gig in Milan and I will fly over and we play.
Or any like apps like online where you play?
Say again?
Do you like do any online? Like
No, not really, no. I mean, there must be videos on YouTube,
Yeah.
but we don't really do anything online. And in the UK, I'm in a choir which is called Some Voices, and we just sing normal songs. And we do have gigs, actually. One of our last gigs was at the Arts Bar around the corner.
I really like the Arts Bar.
I love the Arts Bar,
There's a couple now.
yeah.
Joe, like you said, something about being like an actor's agent.
Yeah.
Is there like good money?
So, it depends if you're a good agent.
Yeah.
If you're a good agent, there's good money. Because, so when you're an agent, the way it works is you're going to procure gigs or jobs. So let's say you want to be an actor and I get you a job in a film.
Yeah.
If you get paid £10, I'll get a percentage of £10. But if you get paid 2 million, I'll get a percentage of 2 million. So I will always get the same percentage of, so let's say it's 5%.
Yeah.
But 5% of £10 is something, 5% of 2 million is something else, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you're a good agent, there's good money. And I think that goes with everything in entrepreneurship. If you're good at what you do, there's good money in it.
Yeah.
There's low overheads as well to being an agent, really.
Yeah?
Your
It's only
your
you.
product or service is someone else and you're trying
Yeah.
to sell them for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can suddenly get 10% of...
Million? If you
Yeah.
think about it, even if you stick with bands, I know someone who is an agent in Milan, and he stuck with this band when no one wanted them, and they were like going to play for £200, and there were 6 of them, and they'd go to play and get £200 at the end of it. They had to split it and then pay for the fuel. Basically, there was no money for it. And he just decided and said, no, I'm your agent. I'm going to find you gigs. I'm going to find you. And now they get paid 20,000 every gig. And he gets 5% of it. And all he has to do is make phone calls and book them in, which is a job. Sometimes I think, could I actually do it? Because it's a bit boring, a bit samey all the time. But it does get you good money
Yeah.
if your representatives are good.
I guess a lot of the agents have different clients as well.
Yeah,
just to-
you'll have to have a portfolio
variety.
of clients, yes. So with everything, it's like that. If you represent a series of people, then you're getting money from everywhere. And some of your people might be seasonal, isn't it? And some others might be all year long. So.
You mentioned you work with neurodiverse individuals. What do you do to take into account any variability in needs?
So, I've got ADHD. My son has got ADHD, autism, and PDA. PDA, for those who don't know, stands for pathological demand avoidance, and it's a part of the autism spectrum where everyday demands feel really heavy, and we can't quite comply with them, from getting dressed to going to school, etc., etc. So we need a little bit of help and support in doing that. I have coached neurodivergent professionals and individuals now for 5 years. And I think, I've probably coached people with every condition in the spectrum. I think the most important thing when catering for any individual, not just neurodivergent individuals, is that the person is the person, and it's going to be different no matter what. You couldn't pick two people who are the same in this room, whether they are neurotypical or neurodivergent. And if you listen, anyone will tell you the way they need to be safe. Because when a person feels safe, then they can be the best person they can be. And that's the same in work, in life, in friendship. If we feel safe with someone, if we feel safe with our friends, we can be ourselves. If we feel safe in an office or a home, we can be ourselves. And that's the prerequisite for you to be your best version of yourself. And I think this is why so many neurodivergent people are entrepreneurs, because in jobs, they feel a bit boxed because there's so many rules and so many things we have to abide to and things like that. But when we are starting a business, we can make it what we want. And we can decide that we don't work on Mondays or we only work at night because this is when we do our best work. For example, I wake up every morning at 4. There is no merit. I just wake up. I don't put an alarm on. I wake up. And that is when my brain is at my finest. I can whip you up projects in an hour there. But if you ask me to do something after 6 p.m., you can sit and wait because it's not, my brain is not going to do it. There is like, no way. So I know that when I have to do important work, I'm going to do it at 4 a.m. But I couldn't do it if I was employed because I would have to work in certain hours. And in those hours, my brain would just go, nah. So I think it's just listening and creating an environment where the brain feels safe.
It's really great advice, that.
Yes.
I think a lot of the entrepreneurs that come onto the podcast always say, seek forgiveness rather than permission.
Oh yeah, always.
Go out there and do it. Quite a lot of us, we don't fit inside a box. We see things slightly differently. And why have we always done it like this when there's 100 other ways that might create different outcomes that are positive or more successful?
Yeah.
Any final questions? Yeah.
Just following on from that last point about trying to understand. Sometimes, as somebody in the school who deals with a lot of employers, sometimes some employers who might not be as educated, and in its widest context, in terms of neurodivergent, may find that difficult. How would for want of a better phrase, neurotypical entrepreneur, how would you coach them into understanding that? Because for somebody who, like you, who gets up at 4 a.m., I believe in the creative process and flow, and I believe that we should allow people to work at the right times. But that can be quite difficult in a business to make that compatible. How do you think?
So,
what do you think about that?
There is a really, really good example of it, and for the love of me, I can't remember the name of the company right now, but it's a company, they're developers, and it's in Liverpool, and it's been created by friends who were going to Liverpool University, and they're all neurodivergent, and they have set up the company in a way that is truly inclusive from the beginning. Now, when you're setting up and you set up as truly inclusive, which means people can work at any time of the day as long as they do their work. And they don't come in if they don't feel like coming in. And they can take days off when they're feeling low or that it's not a good day to work, etc. And still, the company is working. They have proved really clearly, they've been open I think 2 or 3 years, and they have proved really clearly that when people are encouraged to do their best work when they can, people will. And there is no hiding behind, oh, I don't feel really well, I'm not going to do it, and then never delivering. Now, it's a different kind of situation when the company is existing. So I do it, and there's loads of other consultants who do it. I'll go into a company and I'll do a consultancy based around what I see. I'll sit with them and talk about how do you How do you manage people? How do you what are the freedoms that your employees have got? You know, what they have to abide to, etc. And then we'll sit down and we'll make a plan, which is, you can't just change a company from like inside out in a day. But what you can do is you can look at, what can I do right now? And then what is my goal? So let's say that your goal is being fully inclusive in the next 5 years. You can do that, and you can make a plan, but the importance of a plan is that you need to break it down into tiny steps that don't look overwhelming. Because if I came here and told you, this school is completely not inclusive, you need to change everything, you would go, absolutely not, thank you very much, bye. But if I tell you, right, all these things need changing, but we can start today, and we can start with a thing that feels like it's a tiny change, you would do the tiny change, isn't it? And then tomorrow we do another tiny change, and then another tiny change. But the most important thing, and this I see every time I do a consultancy, is that there needs to be a will. Yeah. People need to put themselves to like look in the mirror and go, we need to make a change. And if you're not willing to make that change, it doesn't matter how small I break it down for you. You will not make it. It's like if I told you, you need to go on a diet today, but never again in your life you're gonna eat your favorite chocolate, you would tell me, no thanks, isn't it? Because your brain doesn't want to do it, and our brains are built to be safe. And if I'm taking away something that makes you feel safe, the brain is gonna go, no thanks. Everyone needs to do that. We need to build new neural pathways in our brain to make that change feel safe. And the only thing we can do that is changing things one little bit at a time. And one little bit is better than no change. I've recently been in a place where they told me, we don't have any money to change anything. All these changes that you're proposing are really good, but we can't do it. The only thing we can do that you suggested is go to Home Bargains and buy those living wall fake tiles, they're not real plants, and put them on a wall, because I suggested that they needed sensory walls for their employees who needed sensory stimulation. And they did it, and 1 month later, people reported that their well-being had gone up, because when they're feeling like something is coming up, they can go and run their hand through the plants, and they feel better. And it's not that difficult. It cost them £200 in tiles. So it's just about looking at what you can do right now. Any change is better than no change.
Awesome. I definitely agree with you there about never giving up chocolate, and for me personally, pizza as well. So
yeah.
We have a couple of closing traditions on the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast. And our first tradition is to Simon Squibb you and ask you, what's your dream?
My dream, I've got two. Can I say two?
Yeah.
Is to wake up one day and look like Cindy Crawford. And none of you will know who she is, but she is a supermodel. And when I was young, she was the most beautiful woman in the world, and she still is. But that won't happen. So the second dream is I would like to see a world that it's okay to live in for all, that it's inclusive and built in a way that no one ever has to do reasonable adjustments again, because there's no need. That's my dream.
And that's awesome. And you're obviously working towards that dream,
helping
and
yes.
supporting other people to implement those positive changes in the world. So,
I hope so, yes.
So it's brilliant that you are living your dream. Our second closing tradition on the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast is to Stephen Bartlett you. So we have a couple of packs of Diary CEO conversation cards. So if one of you would like to grab one of the packs and pull out a card, and then we'll ask Fran the final question.
What is the one belief or behaviour that has positively impacted your life in the past 12 months?
It is asking myself, what's the best choice right now? So in the last 12 months, my business has gone through another of its transformations. And sometimes when a business goes to transformation, it means that there is a period of time where you're not making enough money or it's not quite working as you want it. And I've had a moment a couple of months into last year, so February last year, where I was just like, I should just go be a postman because postman is my backup job. If I leave this business, if I close this business, I'm gonna go be a postman. And then I just thought, just go on, but instead of thinking about, I've got this big plan and I want to be there right now, when I was like far away from being where I wanted to be, I just thought, stop it, don't look at the long term, just ask yourself, what's the best choice right now? What's the best choice today? And that also goes for when I wake up and I'm burnt out and I can't quite make that day a working day, maybe the best choice is to stay in bed and watch Netflix. But yeah, what's the best choice right now?
What is an inadequacy you admit to that you could work on starting tomorrow?
I eat too much chocolate. I could start cutting my chocolate intake by a couple of squares a day, but I'm not willing to go further than that.
I wouldn't personally say that's an inadequacy, but maybe it's a new career choice. I'm from Birmingham and I have a friend who lives in Bourneville, so I go past the chocolate factory quite a bit, visiting there at Cadbury's, and they actually have, I saw the roles advertised in the newspaper and I nearly fell off my chair because I got so excited that they have this, but they have chocolate tasters at Cadbury's.
Yeah.
So maybe, you know, we spoke about you changing
Yeah.
the business and
Maybe that's
so
career
don't
change.
get rid of that skill because in the future that could be a
Yeah.
potential new avenue of business for you, professional chocolate tasting.
I will look into that.
Well, thanks ever so much to Ollie and Adam for asking our entrepreneur, Fran Manka, founder of Underwing Liverpool,
Thank you for having me.
questions. Thanks again to Mr. Carey, Sector Skills champion within UTC, the studio in the Baltic Triangle, for not only the support for the Kids Interview Entrepreneurs podcast, but the Enterprise Education in Secondary Schools programme as well. Thanks to Jay, as always, for producing and directing the podcast. And finally, thanks ever so much to Sir Peter Rigby for his support of the Enterprise Education in Secondary Schools programme, and also Paul Brett for his support of the Brett Centre for Entrepreneurship. Thank you for your time and attention, and we look forward to seeing you in another episode in the future. Take care for now.
Thank you.